I have this billing dashboard here. Let's assume there are already 12 users and I would want to subscribe them by collecting amount of $12. So when I hit pay now, request comes to this handler where it creates a subscription and passes this client secret. This client secret is used in the client side for rendering the payment page where you will be adding the card details and doing the payment. I'll quickly do that. So now I have clicked on the payment. One edge case here in the here that could happen usually with the end users would, like there could be a network interruption or user might just come out of this payment page. Okay. Now whatever the subscription that I had created for the 12 users will remain incomplete if I show it in my DB. So I just created this subscription. This got created because I am listening to the Stripe events. And if I see the status, it's incomplete. I tried to subscribe for the quantity 12. Now, what should we be doing here? Again, if I do a subscribe for 12 users, uh, it should ideally not create another request in a Stripe dashboard for another subscription because there is already a subscription existing with the incomplete state. So if I do a pay now with the same 12 users again, and like if you notice this subscription ID, there should not be another additional item with a subscription. I'll refresh. Yeah, it's working fine because it's again trying to make a same subscription with the 12 users. So that's one way to handle the network issue or accidentally going back by an end user. This is in the test environment. I'm doing all these things. This is not a real money that I'm transactioning. I have paid now. If my listener is working properly, I should have a subscription status to be active. It was inactive just before. If I refresh, it turns out to be active. So that means my listener is working properly. Now, in a development mode, you would not be always have a client ready for your APIs to test. So sometime you would want to do this Postman API testing, all those things. But how would you do with this kind of scenarios, having a Stripe integration and all? Here I did the payment because I had a client ready for doing the payment process. But what if the UI is not ready yet, but you have to do the backend API testing? So for that, I'll use a Postman and I'll try to update whatever the payment that I have to do in the Stripe dashboard itself. So that's the update subscription API. If I go to the customer, So from incomplete, it transitioned to the past due because I tried to update the users. So additional $3 that I have to pay. I don't have a client ready for it to do the payment thing. So I would want to see what happens if transaction gets successful. So in such kind of a scenario, Stripe has this thing where you can manually go and mark that has a mark that payment as a paid. Oops, I'm in the wrong page. 1 second. Every subscription update that I do or I create, Stripe will create an invoice for it. So I'll try to mark this as a paid. Now if I go back to the uh, uh, subscription, now it's back to active because I manually made it as a active. And the same thing should be reflected in my database if my listener is working properly. It's active and the build users are 15. And uh, modern business applications will come with this flexible scenario where they would want to prorate for additional users that they would be adding, and also they would want to sometimes they would want to collect a full amount. So what do I mean by prorate? So let's say a subscription billing starts from December 1st, and that cycle will continue for till December 30. So in between, if any user is added, for that additional charges, the Stripe will do the difference amount that needs to be collected. That difference amount is what the prorate. So business application sometimes would want to give that prorate for an end user, but sometimes no matter when does a member or when does the quantity increase, they would want to collect the full amount. So in that case, we can't do the subscription. We can't use a subscription model that the Stripe provides. There is another model where uh, Stripe provides, that is invoice. So manually you collect those additional charge for additional members that got added in between the billing cycle, and uh, collect the invoice payment and update the subscription. From the next billing cycle, whatever the updates that had happened on the count, that will continue to be so. So this is the invoice creating handler. So it'll create an invoice manually and collect a payment apart from the subscription that we usually have. So that's about the payment and the payment handling webhook mechanism. So these are the events that I am listening on my handler, that is customer created, customer subscription created, updated, and if subscription get deleted, I have to update it in my DB. And what are the statuses on a subscription? These are the statuses. Incomplete. When does incomplete expired happens? So you have created a subscription and you don't make a payment uh, within a 24 hours, that will transition to incomplete expired, and whatever the subscription that you had created will get cancelled. So these are the listeners, and this is the logic behind what to do for each event listened. Now comes the last part of the application, that's WebSocket. So what is WebSocket? you would want to do some real-time communication between the clients, or you would want to send some real-time notification that is happening on in the workspace or the org. Let's say somebody have left the organization, or somebody just made a payment uh, that you have raised a request for. So that real-time notification can be handled through WebSocket. So how like what are the key elements of a WebSocket? WebSocket has this connect, default, and disconnect. So what should happen in the each use case scenario? Now your client makes a request to connect to the WebSocket. So every client comes with this unique ID. Uh, so on connect, you should be storing that connection ID in the DB. And if and if a disconnect happens, when would that disconnect happen? Usually on a logout of a application, you would want to delete the record that was there in the DB. So how would communication happen? Let's say client 1 sends hi to the client 2. So this is what end users see in the interface. It's just hi and hello. But in backend, what happens? You make a message hi. It will go to the WebSocket. Uh, Here is my handler that handles the WebSocket requests. So on hi, I'll store that message in my DB, and I'll see for which user is this client want to send a message for. I'll get the data from the DB and I'll send it to here. It'll happen in a fraction of seconds, and for that it sends a response as a hello. This is the chat thing. Now let's say you would want to notify a real-time notification, or some communication that you would want to do for end users. Let's say some user has left the organization. You have the connection IDs here of all the users in that workspace. You will get those connections, and you will send that notification in real time to the end users. That's the connect route. What happens in connect route? You create a record that is a connection record, and on default, how you handle the requests that is coming in, like the real time chat that could be. And every time you would communicate to the other client, there could be a scenario where you would be having some stale connections, which means you would have a connection IDs that has no longer existed. So in such scenarios, if if the error state is this thing, gone exception, you should be deleting that ID because it's no longer a live or a active connection that is living in. I'll I'll quickly show how a WebSocket testing can be done in the Postman. I have a WebSocket listener running. I'll make a connection. So now on connect, I have sent a connection ID from this client, and now I would want to send some message. Let's say hi. Okay, that's the response that I'm getting from real time. That's the response that is I'm getting real time from my handler. Let's say okay. Hey, Community Day Kochi, do you guys believe in serverless? Is what it is asking for. Now, if I say yes, That's great. So this is one of a way that you would test WebSocket connections in the Postman. So Postman has this selecting what kind of a request that you would want to make. That's WebSocket. You select and you connect it there. On connect, it'll do the it'll build that connection. And if I disconnect, my connection ID is deleted from the database, and it is the client is disconnected from the WebSocket. Yeah, that's it I had. So I have gone just to brief what I have uh, uh, done in this session. I quickly walked through the authorizer, how you can handle the routes authorization part. It can have a fine-grained access. Then how to do the payment integration with the Stripe, and how should you be listening to the webhooks events that is happening in the Stripe, and how would you want to do a real-time communication with your end users using WebSocket. Thanks. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, we have time for one question. Does anybody has any question for
Yeah.
Shravan?
This was my first community talk. I'm sorry if you guys had got bored because of my long lecture. Was it boring?
So there is WebSocket we are using, and for that particular Lambda there is cold start. So how it will be handled? So
Cold start.
yeah, so the WebSocket, what means it should be always live, right?
Yeah.
So there is for the Lambda there is cold start is there.
Yeah.
So how can you handle? How will be handled?
So if you notice, the first time when I tried to do the connect, first time when I tried to create a connection, it took some time because that's the cold start, because Lambda was having no, it has not served any request so far. It's in a cold start. Now the moment I connect, I am handling the connect, default and disconnect in one handler itself to keep that Lambda warmer. So on connect, it got into the warm state. Now whenever I send a message, that's a default route, that Lambda is already initiated. So that's how the latency or the cold start is mitigated. Yeah.
Thank you for that question. Okay, thank you, Shravan. I know it's difficult to cover everything in 1 hour session, so let's give a great applause for Shravan. Okay, and as a token of appreciation, we have a small memento and a gift for Shravan. I would like to invite Roshni to hand over the memento and gift to Shravan.